So it's this churning beach ball, and we're live. Okay.
Here we
And
go.
from what I can tell, and tell me if I'm wrong on your end, I can see a little count of how many viewers are watching. I can see right now that there are 2.
I have no idea.
Okay.
Well, one of those,
Yeah,
my girlfriend though. Grace.
Okay, I was gonna say, because
Oh,
if it balloons to like 6, I don't want you guys to get all nervous. I don't
I
want you
can't
guys
see a
to.
number, so that's probably
Okay.
good.
yeah, I don't see a number. Yeah, so I won't get nervous. I'll just assume that there's masses of people watching.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And the value's in the replay. People come back just by the droves. The other thing you may notice somewhere on your screen, you'll be able to see the comments that anyone comments on YouTube. So if they throw something up,
Nice.
sometimes I can put it on screen if it's a relevant question or something like that. But if people are like, "Hey, Levi, cool hat. Hey, Jake, cool hat. Hey, Sean, cool hat," we'll see that. We'll see who gets the most cool hat compliments in the chat.
Yeah, we've got a nice variety. We got the flat bill, the curved bill, and the backwards. Yeah, we're good
Yeah,
here.
we've covered the bases. This is good.
It's on the back of that hat, Levi. That
Well,
KU.
thank you for asking. It's a Super Bowl championship Chiefs hat. So,
There you go.
yeah,
Nice.
trying to get a new one of these in a couple of weeks, hopefully.
That should have been the Super Bowl last Sunday.
Yeah.
Do you guys know Jay Sweet, Jameson Sweet?
No.
Audio dude.
I say the name. Oh yeah, Jay Sweet. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
that's Extreme Marine who's on
Nice.
screen right now.
What's up, Jay?
Tuning in. Well, I wanted to start. So you guys just started an agency, and that's what this whole thing's about. But before I ask my question to you, I wanted to, by contrast, tell the 15-second version of my story, because yours is wildly different in every way possible. So I started my agency 13 years ago in December. Last December was 13 years. And I started it because I couldn't get hired anywhere. I graduated in 07, started it in 08 when I couldn't get hired to do what I wanted to do anywhere. So I'm like, well, I'll just make this up and do it. And in hindsight, starting an agency in the heat of a recession, when you have no contacts, no portfolio, no anything like that, might not have been like the smartest business move I could have made, but struggled through it and somehow made it to where I am today. But along the way, like, I had to make everything up, and I didn't have experience and stuff. And I'll say shooting with you, Kirby, and I think that was 2018 was when I shot with both of you guys for the first time, 18 or 19.
Yeah, I think so.
Not me.
I,
2019. Yeah, 2019. Yeah.
2019.
Yeah.
For me, like, when I started shooting with other people, that's when I was like, oh, I've been doing everything wrong, it turns out. And if I could start over now, I would do it so differently. But you guys are in this opposite boat. If you guys have been doing production for years and years, and you've seen agencies at work, you've worked for them, you've worked with them, and now you get to do it yourself. Tell me about it. Why?
Really
Where?
quick, it's funny you say that because Levi's really the only one that's done it as long as for all, because I did photography for a long time. So
Yeah, I mean,
there's a different story between all of us. Yeah.
I was gonna say Jake and I have both been doing stuff for a while, before SPLYCEHOUSE, but I mean, we have wildly different backgrounds as well. And Jake, we kind of have opposite a little bit, or Jake was, a contractor, freelance life for a long, long time. And I pretty much got a job with an agency right out of college, and I was there for my whole career, basically up until this point. So we do have lots of interesting experiences, but actually even Jake and I are very different, which is part of the collaboration that led to SPLYCEHOUSE, was kind of some of our, strengths and weaknesses that complement one another.
I love the term agency too, because we only have 3 people. So I don't know what defines an agency, but
I feel like you get to choose, like, agency or firm is another cool, like, we have a video firm.
Video
It
firm,
all
I would
sounds
never
cool.
call it a firm. Like, that's
Well,
I think of law firm when yeah.
And that was a discussion a little bit too when coming up with the name SPLYCEHOUSE, not to jump too far ahead, but like, yeah, I mean, we were trying to decide, are we media? Are we agency? Are we creative? Are we post? Are we this? Are we that? And so yeah, SPLYCEHOUSE was sort of born out of a conversation like that as well.
Yeah, we wanted it to be very I had Jake Huber Media, and media is like a common go-to. Like you put media on the end of something, and House just felt like very laid back. But we're like, it's like we still take ourselves serious, or we're still serious about the work, but like we didn't want it to be like stuffy.
It seems like a place I want to go. I want to go hang out at the Splice House.
I mean, that was the first, our launch reel was, that was the closing line was welcome to Splice House. So, it's kind of like, just kind of fun and a little bit different. And just
a gathering place for ideas and individuals.
Yeah. You can come work or you can come have a beer.
One day we'll get an actual house and then we'll make it work for Splice House.
And then you'll do the reality TV show. I'm excited. God.
Possibilities are endless.
Yeah.
So who is Splice? You said there's 3 of you. I know the answer, but who is Splice House? What is Splice House?
Levi?
I mean, I was going to tell Jake to answer it, but I mean, Jake and I kind of have been working on it for a little while now, and we kind of, started it, but then we very, very quickly brought Jake's brother Adam Huber on to work with us as well, because he's an integral part as well, and and he left his he was more similar to me in that he had a full-time position for for quite a long time, and decided to make the leap and help us build Splice House. So so the 3 of us. So Jay, we don't really like titles, and we don't intend on preaching titles, but if you had to give us titles, Jake's kind of the creative director, I'm kind of the DP, and Adam's kind of our director / he does, as you've probably seen, he drives a lot of our social media presence as well, which is what he did at his previous position a lot. So
I was going to say your channel, while fresh, is already full of some pretty polished looking stuff.
Well, it's part of our business model from the beginning was, well, Sean, I'm surprised you know that, because I know you're not on social media, which I respect heavily. The social media can be, terrible in so many ways, but for us, that's the world that we live in, and in like how we market and brand ourselves, the focus was always going to be like, at the end of the day, building the brand. So Adam, and I don't know how much you know about my brother's story, but he worked at a company where they literally made viral YouTube videos, and they were number 2 on YouTube for branded content behind Lego. So they're at 7 million subscribers. I didn't know this for like 4 years when he had the full-time job. He kept talking about how he made viral YouTube videos, but I was like, whatever. Like, I don't believe you.
Yeah, we all do, man. Good luck.
Yeah, you talk too much. And then I finally, me and my girlfriend Grace were like browsing the YouTube page, and my brother was on a screenshot or a cover
thumbnail.
Thumbnail. That's what I'm trying to think of. And I looked at the views, and it was 30 million views. And I was like, what? The funny part about that is we've gone on shoots. Like I was at a shoot at the Musial Awards down at the Opera House, and I don't know how many people were coming up to him, even adults were like, hey, are you Adam Huber? And we're like trying to get his autograph or take pictures with him. And I was like, what's going on here? He couldn't even get in. And I was like, this is weird. But yeah.
So you guys have 3 different skill sets that come together. Tell me, so he worked at a place doing viral videos. You guys have both worked in and out of agencies for your careers. What is it that made you want to say, we want to start like, what's going to be different about, why didn't you keep doing that? What's new? What's different?
Yeah. I mean, I think Jake has a more passionate answer than I do, so I'll let him go first.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just this could be a long answer, so I'm going to try to just be as brief as possible. But out of the 11 years that I've been out of college, 10 of those years have been spent freelancing or independent contracting, and so for me, the early part of those years were like, obviously, I had no experience, I was making no money. But I was just building my network and working with different people and learning the process of freelance, which, Sean, you know very much. Even if you're working independently, you still have to manage your finances differently. You're not getting a paycheck every 2 weeks. Like everything you do is very much like a business just with one person. So I had a lot of experience in that. And so towards the last few years, the freelance part of this became a little bit of a necessity because of the amount of workload I was getting. It was pretty much beyond freelance. And I was trying to figure out what the next step would be. And so to be honest, I was trying to think about how I would fold into an existing brand, whether that's like trying to create a full-time job and a buyout or some type of minor partnership. And at the end of the day, even though there's so many cool brands here in St. Louis and a lot of good creatives, something that was really interesting for me was actually building a brand, because I really wanted to do that. And I really was super interested in seeing a brand start from the beginning. I kind of had a little bit of experience with JCuber Media, but I was just starting, so that, and I didn't want to do it as a personal brand. I could have just maybe kept JCuber Media going, but for me, it was like, I want to collaborate with people, and trying to take that to a bigger place where I just then hire people was like very lonely sounding and like not something I wanted at all. And when you talk about the partnership, there's Levi and I have talked about this, like there's a lot of partnerships are very tough. Even though I never had one, I know how tough that could be. And so to check all those boxes between like trustworthy, honest, hardworking, organized, I mean, the list goes on. And so Levi and I just became a good fit. And I actually presented it to him, and I know he was caught off guard by it, and took some time, talked to his wife, Kylie, and eventually gave me a phone call and was like, that conversation we had, yeah, let's move that forward. And then it was like, all right, let's get to work. So where we're at 3 weeks in now.
Yeah. Yeah. And and my answer is, like I said, his answer is a little bit more passionate than mine. Mine is a little less sexy, but I mean, I had always busted my butt and on every job every day. And, it was always to build someone else's brand or to build someone else's portfolio or whatever. And, kind of in my mind, it was just like, if I'm going to bust my butt every day, let's do something that I can build that's mine, and that's kind of the short, unsexy answer on my end. And then as far as the partnership, yeah, I mean, Jake and I just, we hit it off since the first day we met, and at another agency. It really just felt like a complementary partnership. And then all, like Jake said, kind of all of those intangibles that you can't really like force. They're either there or they're not, and they all seem to be there. So, and then we just been rolling ever since, just figuring out, building bus as we drive it, so to speak.
I should also add really quick that I come from a family of entrepreneurs. My dad is one of 9. He's one of 6 brothers. They all own their own companies. My dad owned his own company. My mom owns her own company. So I'm not quite as smart as my dad. He's a lot smarter than me in terms of like math and all these things. But like just the thought in my mind, seeing my parents run their own businesses and family members, that it was like, is that something I would do one day? And is that something I want? And there was something that I always wanted about that. And so that's kind of a part of the story as well that I should just tie in there.
Only disclosing as much as you want to disclose. What industry, as vaguely as you'd like, are your parents' businesses in?
Oh yeah, no, I can tell you. My dad doesn't own his business anymore because he's retired, but he had a construction company. And when I say he ran a business, it was more like a freelance. He and my uncle, not one of his brothers, my mom's from my mom's side of the family, worked together, and it was it was just the two of them doing construction. So he had his own construction company, and Gotcha. He was really good at it. And he did, and then my mom did still doing interior design. So
okay, so this is really interesting. Yeah. So growing up for me, my father ran a cheese company, and he had a dairy distribution company, and he was absolutely a big mentor for me as I started my business, and I still talk to him about, he's since retired as well, but anytime I have something big that I'm working on, I always run it past him. But when I was first starting, there was this huge disconnect between sort of his business world and the creative world, where when I got a tattoo of my Jimmy John's order on my arm, for example, he
Love
said,
it.
like, you're going to have to wear a long sleeve shirt at every meeting you ever go to. No one's going to take you seriously. No one's going to work with you. And I think if I were doing accounting work or, something in that traditional business world, that's a red flag. But in the creative world where we live, this like uniqueness is an asset. And people aren't hiring us because we're the cheapest. They're hiring us because they like the stuff we've done. They like our portfolio. They're hiring us as artists, not as somebody to hold up a camera and press record. And so I didn't know what I was getting into and how different the sales process would be, and how people, like the number of people who criticize my hat, and I'm sure both of you guys in your hats, it's like, it's not a thing. Like, my clients don't care. Like, the people who hire me, no one has ever been like, and straighten your hat out. Like, no one cares. They see the videos we do and they like the work that we all do, which is why they hire us.
Well, and I think to chime in on that too, I mean, a lot of industries, but our industry is very relationship based, and whereas like, your dad's was probably much more transactional. So it's just a different, relationships are huge in this industry, and I think being fun and easy to work with goes a really long way too. Because I mean, what we do every day is actually incredibly unique compared to what a lot of our clients do every day. And so, I think it's almost experiential in a way too. Providing that experience is part of the equation, and, in my opinion.
Totally. Yeah. One of the things for me, when Jake, you applauded me for not being on social media, I know I'm absolutely missing out on some opportunities and exposure, and my brand isn't growing in any meaningful way in that regard. But as I looked at my career and was like doing some analysis, I'd been on LinkedIn for 10 years. I never got any business. Like, no one ever reached out because they saw me on LinkedIn. Like, everyone was a referral of, oh, I've worked with Sean. You should, like, everything was 1 degree away. And I grew my business based on, like, I can trace everything back to the same few people that started it. Like, everything's connected in that way. And so it didn't justify the time it took as a solo one-man band to spend a bunch of time for me to create social media posts that never, like, I'm not trying to hook Nike. I'm not trying to, like, my stuff isn't that kind of stuff. I worked with a lot of nonprofits, and that world is very much connected with people. And so, yeah. And apparently those people don't mind crooked hats.
If we can hook Nike through some LinkedIn posts, we'll take it.
Watch you guys do it. Watch you post something on LinkedIn, hook Nike, put my face on the bottom of it.
I mean, I know everybody's different, and every story is different, every business is different. But I mean, I will say for us that LinkedIn in particular is a big part of our strategy. Just, and again, and honestly, like you said, I was 10 plus years ago. I mean, look how much it's changed just in that. So, it is, but again, and it's different for a one-man band versus, trying to grow and have support. And because it is, I mean, it's a lot of work to do it well and to do it consistently. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of as far as building a brand, that is definitely part of our strategy. Exposure for that brand, and hopefully one day good brand recognition out there in the world somewhere, wherever it takes us. But yeah, it definitely is part of our strategy. As like you said, as you've seen already in a few weeks now, we're hitting it pretty hard.
Yeah.
Well,
no, your stuff looks good.
I think it's cool because from a creative aspect, we go into this because we have a lot of passion towards it. And like, even what you're doing with your YouTube channel, I think the cool thing about social media in general is like, you can take that and extend it. The type of things that you would just normally see on YouTube, you can do that stuff on LinkedIn now because it is a content platform. And I have a crazy story of LinkedIn where I did get a great opportunity. I don't know if we even need to go into that, but like I've gotten opportunities from Instagram. Levi and I actually, the day we launched, excuse me, I'm going to cough. The day we launched was January 3rd, right? Monday.
Yeah.
Our LLC was opened up on January 1st, but that was a Saturday. And so on January 4th, we got an Instagram message from a new client who had been following me on Jake Huber Media. and it was like a huge opportunity, like through Instagram. Like he was like, oh, I'll send you an email, and the deck that was sent, I was like, oh, that was pretty serious. So I mean, through
Nice.
Instagram, it's weird like how and I've had that happen before too, in the past. So you never know where people are seeing your stuff, and I think to me that's just the number one thing about the internet as a whole. And it's not just one. We can't just talk about LinkedIn. I mean, we could even go as far as to TikTok. Like,
So for me in 2011, 12, something like that, I was flown to, I've told this story on my channel before, so if people watching have heard this, I'll shorten it. I was flown to Atlanta to change PowerPoint slides or Apple Keynote to change slides at a presentation for Bacardi. Weird, I don't know why. There's a bunch of reasons why this story shouldn't be true. That's why I'm in Atlanta. When I fly back to St. Louis, Evander Holyfield is on my plane. And I was on Twitter at the time, and I got out my phone, and I tweeted at Evander Holyfield, are you on our plane to St. Louis? And after we landed, he tweeted back, yes, I was. And then like 2 weeks later, I get a phone call. It's like, hey, I'm Evander's manager. We saw your tweet. We looked at your profile, saw your company, and we were doing a lot of social media management at the time. And they're like, we need social media management. So we ended up running Evander Holyfield's Twitter account for like a year. And it's only full of pitfalls and lessons learned the hard way. But it all started because I tweeted at Evander Holyfield, and these things happen.
That's a pretty cool story, actually.
Yeah.
But we didn't embrace the strategy of like, well, let's tweet at a bunch of other celebrities. Let's just tweet at LeBron James. Are you on our plane to St. Louis? No.
Well,
No,
it doesn't.
I'm not, man.
Hey, like you just said, it doesn't always mean that there's going to be a successful job out of it. Sometimes it might be not what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Hey, lessons learned though, like you said.
Lessons learned and stories.
And stories.
Stories gained.
It's a good story.
Well, I want to ask you guys, as you're now doing projects together, and I'm sure compared to the different roles you've played at agencies where as freelancers or as employees of the agency, you had your roles, very specific, probably smaller roles, not smaller, but specific. Mm-hmm. Now that you're all at the table for like client comes along to Splice House, there's three people. There's three people who have input on it, who are going to weigh in on everything. So how do you approach, you get an Instagram message with a deck for a potential new client. What is your process for coming up with the right content for your clients? What does that look like?
Address that one in particular, because that was so big and it was a bigger project than anything we had gone through. So we went to a producer that I've used in the past on the last biggest project that I used, and he did a fantastic job. He's worked in New York and LA, and he's done huge commercials. And so that we brought in the right person for that one.
Find it, just to interject, two things. We're still figuring it out. A, mm-hmm. B, finding the right people to support us is it's 1A and 1B right there. We're still figuring it out, but yeah, finding the right people, I mean, is huge. So sorry, not to interrupt, Jake.
No, I mean, that's all I had to say, because you were specifically pointing to that one project, day 2 of our launch, and we were not expecting that. I mean, it was kind of the cool thing was like, you know, I think there are people that know who Levi is, and know who I am, and know who Adam is independently. Some people know who we are all together, but I think bringing us all together under one roof, for some people, that was probably exciting, and I think we got some calls just based off of that. And I think that was cool. Leading up to it was walking with Levi and being like, we could have done this earlier, and just like in the last year opened up the LLC even just a few months ago, and then not done a big launch and just slowly kind of. But we were like, no, we're going all in on January 1st, and I'm like really like OCD about. So my last LLC was opened on October 15th, October 1st, 2015. And I was like, no, I want it January 1st, 2022. And I wanted to say that on the actual certificate. So that's kind of what we did, and we're in the phase. This month has been kind of weird because our February is like we have a ton of stuff that's like out in the world as bids, and this month hasn't been like crazy. It was for me for the first 2 weeks. It's been a little slower for us right now this week, which is good to just kind of sit down and reassess kind of where we're at. But we have a lot of stuff coming, and you can kind of feel the wave from internally. So, and we're trying to do a lot of our own original content as well. So,
for sure. And just to backtrack on your question a little bit, I mean, that is one thing. Just being fully honest, that's one thing that I'm like, you try to anticipate as much as you can, and we spent a lot of time building the foundation for SPLYCEHOUSE before we actually launched, kind of what Jake was alluding to. But like one thing that I didn't really think about until it started happening was like a lot of my previous experience was just executing, like just execution. Like, here's what we need, go make it hot. Like, and now that we've launched already, since we've launched SPLYCEHOUSE, I mean, there's been more than a handful of like people are coming to us for ideas and content strategy and stuff like that, and which is awesome, and I love that. But that is very time consuming, and that's one thing that I really didn't fully think about until it started happening. And so that is it. That's why I say we're still figuring it out, because we still are kind of learning as we go. But yeah, I mean, content strategy is huge, and it's awesome to be getting more of those opportunities already instead of just executing all the time. Just kind of a sidebar to your original question.
That's what I was sort of thinking, because like in my relationship with both of you guys, it's been that execution. Levi as a DP, you direct the photography. You're not conceptualizing the gig and working with marketing on what messages, et cetera, et cetera. And now you get, I guess the question is, have you always wanted to do that? Like, have you been producing stuff and been like, I wish I had more of a say in this or that? And like, is this a cool opportunity to have that control?
Yeah. I mean, it's time consuming and we're still working on figuring that part of it out, but no, it's super awesome to have people be like, instead, and I'm still shifting my mindset a little bit personally, like because I, a lot of my career, and I did a lot of event stuff in my career too. And, a lot of that is reacting to what's happening in the moment, which I think I'm pretty good at, creating opportunities in the moment. But then that's a lot different than storyboarding and conceptualizing, and, which, and Jake's really good at that, which is part of the reason why one of the reasons we complement each other. But to answer your question, yes, it is awesome. And I love, because it just, it just opens up doors, and it enables you to push creative. Because a lot of times when you are executing, you're like, in your mind, you're like, I would do this much differently if I had been involved earlier. And now we're getting the opportunities to be involved earlier and influence creative, which is awesome. Yeah.
I should also add too, really, when you talk about this, Levi and I are executors, and like, you come to us with a concept, or you need us to show up, like, we can shoot, we can edit, we can do that stuff. And we're effective, and we've done really well on our own doing that. The big key for me, and it's funny because the conversation I had with Levi about doing this and starting SPLYCEHOUSE before there was even a name SPLYCEHOUSE, his first response was like, what about your brother? And I was like, well, he has a full-time job right now, but trust me, he's going to be a part of this. And even when I was talking about Levi before I had talked to Levi with my girlfriend Grace, and she's like, I had probably been thinking about it for like a couple weeks, and she's like, how do you know Levi's going to even want to do that? And I'm like, don't worry, like, it's going to happen. And like, same thing with Adam. I was like, no, like, when you have the passion around it, and you bring that energy, and you have the right people, like, people are going to flow to that. And so the bigger thing that I'm getting to here is Adam has a ton of experience. He did work full time for 7 years at a company, but he was freelance for like, I think 7 years before that. He's 2 years older than me, but he also knew he wanted to be a filmmaker since he was like a little kid. I was off playing sports. We're very, very different. He was doing plays. He was a lead actor his senior year in Kirkwood High School play. I never wanted anything to do with plays. He was making movies. He was always filming stuff. He knew he went into Webster film program, and his experience and the things he's done. He's DP'd on big sets, and he's directed big commercials. He's done a ton of different stuff. So I knew that like Levi and I could do a lot, but Levi didn't know Adam super well and was kind of trusting me in that. And so when I think about that, I'm like most excited about the support we get from him, and what he's capable of doing is also complementing a lot of what we can do. And he's talented at a lot of different things. Like he can, I mean, he did his YouTube channel has 38,000 subscribers. His Instagram has 12,000. Like he's been good on social. He creates content. So that's just a huge added bonus to what we're doing.
Well, not to put you guys on the spot, are you thinking about expanding the team beyond that? Like, are there roles you know now that you want to expand from, or do you want to keep it as the collective of the three of you? And again, if you don't know, or if you don't want to say.
I mean, it's pretty obvious. It's impossible to stick with the three of us just forever. I mean, there's no, I mean, right? There's no, like, in terms of, like,
we 100%. I mean, we started, part of the reason that both of us are on the same page of why we started SPLYCEHOUSE is because you hit a ceiling. I think we might have already mentioned it. You kind of hit a ceiling as a freelancer. There's only a certain level you can go to as a freelancer before you're literally just at capacity. I mean, that's the way that it works.
I was there.
So, I mean, and Jake was there. Jake was over it, I think. And so, I mean, part of the reason is because we wanted to be able to grow. I mean, and we already have possible plans of maybe a junior editor coming on with us soon. I mean, we're quickly learning how.
We do have a junior editor.
Well, I didn't know if you wanted me to say it or not. Yeah, we have a junior editor coming on with us starting next month already. I mean, we have lots of good freelance connections, with producers. I mean, producers are like obviously crucial to every project basically. So hopefully, once we get to a level where we're comfortable, a producer will be big. I mean, we're already learning how important a production coordinator is. I mean, yeah, we have every intention of hopefully getting to the point where we can grow for sure.
Yeah, in the brief moment that we had before you went live, you were talking about how you hire people, Sean, so you may have some understanding of how this goes. Like, I just sent all my 1099s out on Saturday. I had 25 of them. So we've, from just my LLC alone, doing all the work and hiring people as I needed, that's something that we also look to from a contract basis of like, all right, like we're getting busy, like who's the right people for the job here? And so, or even just a lot of times that might just be an audio guy. Cause if Levi and I are shooting, like we can't run audio sometimes. So we need that, so.
I know a great audio guy.
There's a lot of
I think we got one watching right now.
I sent something out at the beginning of the year trying to see who's still in the pool. I know there's people who've gotten full-time jobs, and I just wanted to know so I had my list of who's still wanting to run camera, who wants to do whatever. And when I sent it to Jay Sweet, he's like, dude, you didn't put anything about like, do you want to be an audio mixer? Or you look for audio mixers? And I told him like, dude, I already have my audio mixer. I don't. I've got two. I don't need extra audio mixers. I've got.
You don't want me to put that out in the world.
Yeah, you're just making competition for yourself, man.
Right. Yeah, hey, never a bad thing to have a deep roster of support. That's for sure.
Right. Exactly. Well, I want to end with two last questions, a fun one and a useful one, I'll say. Is there, looking back now where you are, starting an agency, a firm, a house, is there a project in your life that just sort of stands out as being a really cool project, and the kind of project where as you look into the future, like man, I hope I can do more stuff like that. Like that was really neat. That was sort of my dream sort of gig a little bit. What would you say are each of your sort of not the favorite, but just a highlight of like this was a really, really cool gig and I'm glad I got to do it?
I mean, it's interesting. What I would consider like a dream gig has kind of evolved as well over the years. Cause like, I mean, I did a lot of traveling at my previous position. I mean, I think it was 2018. I think I was on the road for like 250 days that year.
That's most
crazy.
of the days.
Most of the days. And I was loving it. I mean, my wife, I don't think was loving it too much. And that's part of the evolution. You know, I have a family now, I have a baby. And so traveling used to be what I considered a big perk, and I loved it. And I love doing event highlights and stuff like that. I love being around people, meeting people, learning from people, which I still do love all those things. But, you know, I don't really want to travel quite as much now that I have a family and all, you know, all this stuff. So in terms of, but I know Jake and I actually got to work on a really fun one when we did have an agency overlap year. We got to work on a fun one where we got to go to Houston and Florida, and it was kind of this cool merging of a company with real people from that company, and it was I don't know if I should say who it was for, but it was really fun. And Jake and I that was one of the first like bigger projects Jake and I got to work on together, and that was really fun. We're both big sports guys, so like, I mean, anytime I can work on sports stuff, I love it. I mean, I got to do a feature film a couple years ago, which was never necessarily one of my dreams, but it was an incredible experience, and I learned so much. You know, I just love different types of
I shot behind the scenes photos on 2 days of that film, and I learned so much just from shooting behind the scenes photos, let alone actually having anything to do with the film. I can only imagine.
Jake actually did too. Yeah,
I did too. Yeah. You learn that you don't want to do that, right? That you don't want to be on a film set.
It's crazy. I mean,
16-hour days with no sleep. Like,
I mean, honestly, just I've been fortunate to have lots of different experiences with travel, and I mean, I've traveled the world. I've done highlights. I've got to do the film. You know, I think I just love collecting experiences. And like you said, I mean, when you got to shoot with us for the first couple of times or whatever, I mean, for the first half of my career, I pretty much was I did a lot of stuff by myself, and then the second half up to this point, like I've been collaborating a lot more and working with a lot more people, and you just learn. I mean, you grow exponentially when you work with more people, and you know, with different types of people, and you know, so it's really hard to pinpoint a favorite project when there's like thousands. But I'd say I just love new experiences. And Jake quoted me the other. I have this like saying where experience is like compound interest, and I always, because just like every experience, you learn something new, and then which is kind of just a different way of saying the old saying where it doesn't get easier, you just get better. Like every experience is just stacks on one another, and then you know, you just, yeah, it's been a great ride, and I'm hoping to take all those experiences into SPLYCEHOUSE. So I don't know, Jake probably has a shorter answer than me. That was kind of long-winded.
Yeah, thanks. I can echo a little bit of that, because it's funny. I used to love traveling, and I've been around the world too. I've gotten to go to Olympic Games and stuff like that, and it's once the pandemic hit, like we have not been traveling at all, hardly, especially for work. Like there's been a lot less. Not that we haven't at all, but I kind of enjoy these days right now, as I'm 35, to not really be traveling. When I do have to travel for work, it's sometimes a burden, and especially if we have to bring gear and run that through TSA. I hate that. I would rather just drive somewhere. Like, I can't stand traveling by plane with gear. So it's kind of a hassle, but when you're young, it's like the most exciting thing ever. So those experiences to me are like, I'm not really necessarily like searching out like a crazy thing in a different country. I think what I'm most excited about is the branding of what we're doing, and seeing that, like, I'm like YouTube college. Like I go on YouTube and I watch like Peter McKinnon, and I watch Daniel Schiffer and these guys, and Austin Paul, and I'm like, they're in their kitchen in a small apartment, and they're making like the coolest looking stuff. And I'm like, that's amazing. And Austin Paul specifically, if you ever see his stuff, he's like, he gets products sent to him, and then he makes it look like it was shot for like hundreds of thousands of dollars in a living room or a kitchen. And I'm like, that's interesting, because he's built a brand and now he's got an audience on YouTube. And I'm like, that's possible in today's world. And I think the pandemic has showed that more than anything, that like, where do you think the world's going? And I'm not saying that these won't be big productions, but there's also like smaller brands out there that would be like, hey, Sean, let me just send you this product. Can you just make something like really cool out of that? And I think I'm super excited about trying to maybe get to that point where we could build an audience, because on top of not only being able to do it from a perspective of like, you can do things more effectively nowadays because of the way the equipment is and all
technology and the software.
And we all know, like, we all shoot on A7S3s. Like, they're pretty good compared to a lot of, we've shot on red cameras too. And it's like, when you compress this online and you color grade it well and you light it well, like, could you really tell if it's online? Like, maybe some highlight retention. And I'm not saying that there isn't a difference, but like, I'm just super excited to know that like some of these YouTubers that build an audience now have the added benefit to monetize that and say, like, if we make your product video and we share it, like, that's a huge audience that you get to see as well. And that was what my brother's, the company he was working at, was starting to get like brand sponsorship deals just based off the audience that they had alone. Yeah. And there's a lot of people that are moving in that direction. And I'm not saying that that we're like trying to do that, but that's the importance of branding in what we're doing. And I'm just excited about that. There's no one single project I'm looking forward to, but like collaborating with our small team in like a little tiny studio on like a drink pour commercial would be awesome.
Yeah.
So awesome.
My few notes in here are, number one, I've only drank Cometeer coffee for like the past 3-4 months or whatever.
I know Cometeer. Is that St. Louis?
No. Daniel Schiffer did a video about it. It's like the frozen coffee.
Yeah.
I only know about it because he did a video about it. And it's
that video.
It was awesome, and all done on a tripod, and just all the motion was added in post.
That's the video that he made. Like, I'm going to shoot this only on a tripod. That one.
Yeah, that's all with dry ice and stuff like that.
Love it.
Yeah. And it's good coffee. But to your point, that Cometeer, I don't know what they paid him, if anything, or if they just sent him this stuff, but they got a customer out of it because his audience was exposed to it.
Well, and really quick, we have a program we use called Asana, where we if we have ideas, we throw them in there. And I'm like, I've got this idea where it's like a dartboard challenge, where we just have different categories on the dartboard, and we all have to throw, and whatever we land on, we have to compete. Like, for instance, like, you can only shoot on like a 35 millimeter, or you can only shoot on an iPhone, and then we have to like see what like, I know some of this stuff takes time, but I love that challenge of like, you can only use a tripod and you can't take it off.
Well,
like,
me and you in the middle of the pandemic, we did the 60-second challenge just for fun, and we didn't really get anybody. No one else really got involved, but we had fun doing it.
That's because nobody knows, Sean, how long this stuff takes to do.
Yeah.
So it's so time consuming.
It's been interesting seeing this sort of content, and I too am watching the same people and stuff like that. And as going back to something that you said, Jake, about traveling, one of the gigs coming up this year, and you guys both know Dane Iwata, and he and I work together. We're doing this thing at some camp on the East Coast, and we're looking at the math of driving versus flying, for that exact reason of like, well, if we drive, it's 13 hours, but we get unlimited gear. If we fly, we'll technically get there, but we still have to rent cars and all this stuff. And it's like, is it easier to just drive instead of flying? Because once the pandemic hit, I stopped traveling almost completely, save for a couple things here and there. I obviously, when they said, do you want to go to NASA at Langley Air Force Base, I got on a plane for that one. Not
Yeah.
not better than that.
Right.
Well, yeah, I guess my last question, and we'll have to do this again sometime because you guys are fantastic and have no shortage of experience that I think is just awesome. It would be fun for people. Oh, here's a quick question from Jake. Can you read that, Jake?
I don't know who the connected to Performance Huber. What's that? I don't know.
I would guess
I hope
the
you're not-
answer
I
is
hope-
no.
I would say I hope you're not related then. If you, yeah.
Yeah, definitely not, because there's a lot of In fact, my dad had Joseph D. Huber Construction in Kirkwood, Missouri, and there was another person. I think they had their construction company in Kirkwood, Missouri, and they were Huber Construction, and but they were a much bigger construction company.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's weird. Like in the same town, this town isn't that big. So,
Yeah.
there's Hubers out there that I'm
It's
not.
bigger. It's bigger than the town I'm from. I'm from a farm town of 2,300.
I wouldn't be surprised though, because I have 65 cousins on the Huber side of the. So,
That's crazy.
it's a big family. Yeah.
Yeah. At
Jake
a point,
Jake has more
related.
Jake has more cousins than were in my entire graduating high school class.
Yeah. We have our own high school.
Yeah.
Well, my last question is outward facing, and Jake, you outed yourself as being 35. I don't like to ask ages, but you put it out there. But I had said, I'm 37. I had said to you guys in the chat before this.
You guys are old.
What are you, 19, Levi?
No, I'm 33. I'm right behind.
Levi's my intern. I don't know if we've established that.
Yeah.
Sorry, we should have started with that.
I just get Jake coffee and he gave me a free shirt. I don't even know.
But Levi, if you work hard, as soon as you graduate, man, I'm sure they can make a spot for you.
Yeah, he's doing all right. He's doing well.
Good. I said, what advice would you have for the younger audience out there? And I think there's a lot of people right now that are interested in production, and with Daniel Schiffer and Peter McKinnon and Austin Paul, this, whole generation of YouTube University. And for myself, and it might be different for you, Levi, than it was for Jake and I. But when I went to college, there wasn't really, if you wanted to go into film or production, you had to pick something. You could be an editor, you could be a director, you could be a camera operator. There wasn't anything to be like, oh, you want to do everything? Yeah, all you need is a laptop. Go.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, I'm going to out Levi really quick. He's 34, so.
No, I'm not.
You're 33?
Yeah, and I'm not 34 till March.
So it's the same situation for him too.
Yeah, no, it's honestly, I mean, I know you didn't even get to your question yet, but when I was just a quick college experience, I mean, I learned more. One of my awesome professors had us do the 48-hour film competition, which I ended up falling in love with, and I carried that into my job. I learned more doing the 48-hour film competition in one weekend than I did in a year of school, I mean, just that hands-on experience.
Did you go to school for film?
I did. So I went to JUCO for 2 years for journalism, got a little associates in journalism. And then I came down to SIUE for a TV film production. So yeah, I mean, I did go to school for that, but we did do a little bit of everything, thankfully. But I mean, I was really happy to have my journalism background, honestly, because I think being able to write well can kind of serve you in a lot of areas in this industry. So I was happy about that. It kind of worked out the way that it did. But yeah, we did. Yeah, I'm not that much younger than you guys. I look it, but
the question was, there's people who may look at the two of you and say, I want to do that. I want to start an agency. I want to build a brand. What advice would you give to somebody who's in high school or college, to get into a career like this? What would you tell them?
Well, I would certainly start with that. Getting into the industry itself is one thing. Starting your own brand or business or agency, you really better have some self-awareness around that, because Sean, we all three of us know, it's not always as glamorous as it seems, like an entrepreneur lifestyle. And if you're okay with, I mean, granted, I made no money for like the first several years of starting out, and I was lucky enough not to go into debt. But like managing no money coming in for an entire month when you don't have much money, I mean, that like it's different now, but like it's not a paycheck every 2 weeks. So I feel like that's a whole nother topic. I won't even get into that, but that's just self-awareness on what kind of person you are and what you really want to do, and if you're going to enjoy that. But I think more than anything is like Levi was saying, experience. And so you got to get in there and start doing stuff and meeting people, and you better be somebody that people like to work with you. So you got to be a good person and be kind and do things passionately and from a good place. Because I mean, I got my start working I worked with a Sports Illustrated staff photographer, and I had no idea how to expose a camera. I had no reason to be there. I just knew the guy, and we got along. And years later, I did become good at it, and I learned a lot, and I was qualified. But just there was a lot more people qualified right out the gate. But part of that was just because we got along really well, and that's a big part of it. And I think about like people right now that would come into Splice House, like I don't want the person that knows how to do everything but has an ego or wants to not be collaborative or like takes offense when you have a different way of doing things. I want the person that doesn't know how to do everything but is like so hungry and willing to learn and just is fun to be around like that, and has the passion like that. So I hope that answers that.
No, totally. And I know Levi, you know Ronald.
Yeah.
Great. I love working with Ronald, and I think it'd be so much easier to find somebody with more experience than he has. But I hire him all the time because of what you just said. Like he's eager, he's easy to get along with, he's open. He's never like, if I say like, oh, maybe we should try it this way, he's never gonna be like, no, here's why we're not doing it that way. I'm like, no, we're collaborating.
Do it my way, Sean.
Yeah, no. I mean, I would totally, I agree with Jay. Be on time. That's one of my, that's one of my bugaboos too. I hate it when people are late, but anyways, I would just, I mean, I can honestly like wholeheartedly say this because I've been reflective of it over the last, like since I left my last job and over the pandemic, like truly, and it sounds kind of like a scripted answer, but like truly treat every opportunity or every experience as an opportunity. Because I mean, it's literally come to fruition probably 20 times in the last 18 months where someone that I don't really remember meeting remembered me and it turned into something. And like, I mean, like, honestly, I've met people where I was like, man, I really hope that I was cool to this person because I don't really remember. and but like, I mean, you have hundreds of opportunities, hundreds of experiences. I was traveling a lot. I was working with different clients every day. And like, you could have a bad day to one person and that one person talks about you and your reputation is out the window like that. So, I mean, I would just treat every opportunity, every experience as an opportunity, be fun to work with, try to learn. I mean, like Jake said, hungry. I mean, we're still learning. Literally, we're still learning every day. So like, I mean, that's you never know when an experience or a person you meet is going to come back 10 years down the road, and you just never know what it might turn into. So experience.
I want to add this too really quick, and I know we're probably way over time. I thought you said like 30 minutes.
I did.
I'm sorry,
and
man.
I feel bad that I've taken double that.
Though, did we not get 30 minutes each? Is that what you meant?
Yeah, 30 minutes each. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry.
No,
we still got 3 minutes each. Go ahead.
All right, I'll be really quick here, but there's this young kid who like messaged me on Instagram, and it just so happened to be over the holidays, so I wasn't busy. I wasn't really working, and so I actually had time to kind of look at it. And there's a lot of times I'll get messages where it's like, hey, I really want to collaborate with you, but like it's like I don't have time to collaborate, and like that, and really it's like you know what I'm saying, like. Sometimes we're busy and we're working and it's like a young college kid that wants to collaborate. I'm like, maybe that's not the right approach. This kid, I can't remember how he approached it. got me to look. It was just like saying, hey, I really like that thing you did. And I was like, great. I happened to go to his profile, saw a couple things I liked. Then I messaged him back and I was like, hey, like, we're starting this new brand. Like, you should come by sometime because I kind of like your work and you seem like you're passionate. He's come by the studio twice now, hung out with us. And I just let him borrow a monitor. Like, if you ask people and you're not asking for anything, but just like, don't be afraid to like reach out, because like, you never know if somebody's just going to be like, yeah, come on by. And then if you guys are, you know, or if you guys do have things in common, then, you know, you never know what could come out of that. And I guarantee you, this kid didn't use Premiere a week ago, and he's already editing stuff now on Premiere, because I told him, I was like, all these production houses are using Premiere. If you can learn that, like, you will get work. And I'm like, I'm ready to like start putting this kid to work, like giving him real money. He's not making any money right now. He's just a college kid, so you never know.
What did he edit in before?
DaVinci.
Okay.
And
I'm always looking for Final Cut editors.
I know,
which are such a rare breed anymore.
Yeah, you should call it Daniel Schiffer. That's what you.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to throw that out there because that's like a big part of it. This kid in particular happens to be really cool. And when I think about myself as 20 years old, like, he's got his head on his shoulders. I certainly didn't at 20. So if you know what you want to do, like, go out there and get it, you know?
On that note, and I think evidenced by the last question I asked, what advice would you have for young people? I hate that question in a different setting than this. I like talking about the question with my colleagues, but when I was on social media and I did get never any brands to get business from, but people reached out like, hey, can I work with you? People would reach out and say, like, what advice do you have for somebody just getting started? Like, it's going to take me 20, like the three of us could talk about this for a long time. Right. But there were a few people who reached out with like, hey, can I shoot behind the scenes photo of something you're doing sometime? And it's like, yeah, specific request. I'm busy. Yes. You just asked a very specific question. Yes. And then there was someone else that said, hey, if you ever need anyone to edit something, I use Final Cut too. And I was like, great. Yes, done. And I ended up working with them as well. But I think if someone had come and just said, can you collaborate? It's like, I don't know. Does that mean I have to think a lot? Because no, I don't want to do that.
No, like they wanted to like a college football game or something to shoot with them. And I'm like, I have no time for that.
Gary V is a big, like, me and Jake both follow him pretty religiously in a lot of ways. Not everything, but I mean, yeah, he talks about be specific and just be targeted. I mean, be targeted in what you want. And I would add to that, like, if you are trying to get out there and get experiences, don't make the other person go out of their way for you. You go out of their way for them and make it happen.
Exactly.
Like,
I think that's what you said, Sean, though. Like, try to like offer something with no expectations. Like, hey, can I shoot something for you? Like, if you have no experience and you're trying to get, you know, that is one way you could do it. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, you could come and shoot BTS for me. And maybe if you know, that could lead to something, you know?
Yeah.
So.
And I'm a big believer personally in doing the work that you want to do.
Yeah.
And I know any number of people who could be a PA, but I know there's a bunch of people that's not what they want to do. And when someone reaches out and they're like, hey, I want to light something. I want to be a gaff. Like, can I come on set and light something with you? Like, yeah, that's specific. I know that you want to do that. You're not just trying to like get your foot in the door. Like, this is something you're pursuing. Like, that's so much easier to say yes to because it's specific, but then also because it's like, yeah, I know this is something that you're passionate about and you're not just trying to get coffee for us like Levi. Well, this is now 60 seconds shy of an hour. So I'm gonna say thank you and sorry for taking up double the time I asked for.
Past Levi's bedtime.
But we should do this again sometime. What'd you say?
Yeah, no, I'm down. He said it's past my bedtime, which he's not entirely wrong. I got a 5-month-old here, so yeah, you know, got to sleep when you can.
Is your 5-month-old sleeping through the night?
He was. He's
okay.
Going
yeah, I guess don't talk. You're just gonna jinx it.
Yeah, he's going through a bit of a resurgence right now. But yeah, no, it's been good, and this was fun. Yeah, be happy to do it again sometime.
Where
Awesome.
can we download this, by the way? Will you send that to us?
I'll send you a link. Yeah.
Awesome.
But we'll say goodbye and then we'll talk for a second, not live,
Okay.
because I've got a bunch of really ignorant stuff I want to say and out some people.
See you, Jay. See you, Jay. Thanks for all the comments.
Yeah, Jay, you had a lot.
I don't know how many people tuned in, but thank you for watching this.
If you want to get hired as an audio mixer, tune into live streams and leave comments. It works, Jay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll put the stuff, if somebody's still watching the last 30 seconds of this and doesn't notice that I put your contact information down in the description, it's down in the description. That's all. Thanks for watching.